But we have coaching carousel going along. We have rumors popping in and out on who's trying to request access to certain coaches, this and that. Scotty, what are some of the hotter rumors that you've been hearing? Obviously, the Cardinals let go Cliff Kingsbury. You got an opening in Houston. You got Denver's opening. You got Carolina. You got the Colts. I mean, so many spots that need to be filled. You got Harbaugh. You got Sean Payton. You got, all of these. We've talked about a lot of the candidates over the course of, this past week. Last week, Frank Reich is out there. Steve Wilkes. I mean, all sorts. But, and Scotty's good. Dan Quinn. You got our D'Amico Ryans, Raheem Morris, all these fits. So which rumors are standing out to you, and which ones make sense?
I mean, I don't know. Right now, everyone seems to be asking for permission to talk to
everybody, right?
Sean Payton and the Jim Harbaugh stuff. I mean, Denver locally, I think the big players are. I don't think Peyton's going to come here. So Jim Harbaugh, Dan Quinn, they interviewed Caldwell today, and I think that could be like a dark horse candidate there. The interesting job that might open up that Chris has been rumored and talked about quite a bit recently is LA Rams. That Sean McVay might want to head off to the network studio show, have more time to spend with his wife. So that would be a super interesting job. I don't think any of the jobs right now Sean Payton would take that are open. I think if the Rams were to open, maybe. If the Chargers, I think if Staley loses this weekend, the Chargers job potentially could be open, and that would be something Sean Payton would look into. I just don't see any of these jobs right now. For him, Harbaugh, I don't know. Harbaugh's a weird guy, so like anything could happen with Harbaugh. There's definitely. Let me hold on. I had something up on this and then I closed it out. What a mess.
Let's see.
But there's some good options certainly.
There's more quality coaches this year than I feel like there typically is. I mean, there's some interesting ones. I mean, D'Amico Ryans is an interesting one. DC from the 49ers. I mean, that's a solid option. I mean, even some guy. I mean, Raheem Morris is out there. Dan Quinn. I know someone said you do not want Dan Quinn as your coach as Hauser. He's off. Dan Quinn.
I think it's a very distinct possibility here in Denver. Houston seems to be tied potentially to who was one of the finalists for the Denver job last year?
I mean, there was a
Gannon, Jonathan Gannon in Philly. So he's somebody that's certainly going to be looked at as and like I've heard that's a very good possibility in Houston. Like obviously Houston's not a great job when you're firing coaches after a season every year. But you do get that payday then moving forward. Who do you of the jobs that are open right now? Okay, which is Arizona, Carolina, Denver, Houston, and I suppose Indianapolis, right? I don't know if they've officially said anything about Saturday, but he was interim anyway, so it's technically open. What do we think the best job is, and why?
None of the above.
I mean, of the ones that are currently open, not like speculating of like Chargers.
Yes, the ones that are only open, definitely open right now, including Indy in that.
So yeah, so you got Indy. Indy, Houston,
Denver, Carolina, Arizona.
Arizona's in a rough spot. Denver's in a rough spot.
I guess Carolina, because they're the only one that's really on the upswing. Others are going down.
Well, and also
obviously
Carolina's in a rough
quarterback. But
they need a quarterback.
Yeah, they're rough, but
and they're in
all these teams need to.
But they're in a
quarterback.
They're in a bad division, so there's that. You're not battling in a bad division, or you're not battling in a really, really good division. So there's a chance of success there. You have some pieces that fit in Carolina. don't hate that. Indianapolis is an interesting one. I don't think you're super far off in some aspects with Indy. But
We do have breaking news.
what do we got?
Broncos have interviewed a new candidate.
David Shaw. I saw that.
David Shaw, formerly of Stanford.
Which is that a real interview? Or
I don't know
would
if that's
Shaw potentially come in a package deal with Harbaugh.
Maybe. Well, I see. It's from Schefter, so
Yeah, no,
might
I
not
don't
be the
doubt
most reliable anymore.
I don't doubt that they met with him. But obviously Shaw and Harbaugh have ties to each other from Stanford. So
I would say what's interesting with Denver. I mean, Denver's not a great situation in just with what we have to work with moving. I mean, there's some pieces there, but at the same time, I like this. The thing that could sell a coach is those last 2 games under a new coach after getting rid of Hackett and seeing some of the offensive production in those last 2 games. It's a small sample size, and it's not necessarily something that's going to push you over the top to say that, you know, we need more of Russ. But if that you can take some of Russ's talents and just work to what his strengths are, which he doesn't run anymore, and he's got some struggles there.
You're supposed to list his strengths, not his weaknesses.
And he can still throw the ball downfield. He can still throw on the run a little bit better than, you know, most people give him credit for. The last 2 games, he was throwing on the run. I mean, there was that last game that he threw on all the way down to Jerry Jeudy on the run, down the sidelines, on point. Like, if you can put him in situations where he's doing more of those things, I think that makes the Denver Broncos job not a bad situation. You get paid. You have some talent from a wide receiver standpoint. Jerry Jeudy's fine. You got.
Wait, is that the only coaching job available where they're going to get paid?
Well, I mean, obviously Carolina has money too, but
I think all the NFL teams.
You're just handcuffed with like the flexibility of drafting and paying guys. Like, moving forward, it's going to be tough. So that's why the Broncos job isn't good. And then also, if Russ isn't what we think he is, which he's not as of this year, it's not a great job. So I would say, long story short, I would say Carolina, Indy are probably in the mix there. Houston would be in a better position if they didn't win that last game. Houston would be in a decent spot that you can grow.
At least your quarterback.
You could pick your quarterback
you love in this draft.
But now, so Houston kind of falls off a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, no, and Arizona's a bit of a mess. And did you hear they're gonna let Kyler Murray give input on who the next coach is?
Oh no.
Can you imagine Kyler Murray like in an interview process with like a head coach and be like, "Hey, by the way, do you give homework? Do you give homework, or we're not doing that, right? Like, I'm busy outside of the the time at in the practice facilities. All right, I got some video games to play, so I'd prefer no homework, please."
Oh my goodness, it's I don't know if I trust that at all. I don't trust anything Kyler's really in charge of, really. It's just not my thing. But it's going to be fascinating. There's a lot of decent coaches out there, and there's a lot of, we'll see if there's any more openings at the end of the season here. But I will say this is the most exciting offseason for coaches moving around and shifting than we've had in recent memory that I can like think back on. Like, there's a lot of quality candidates that could turn around a potential team. So we'll keep tabs on all of these coaching rumors, and I'm sure Schefter's going to be saying, "Oh, this guy's gotten permission from this, and this, this team's getting permission for this coach." So we'll get more and more of that as we keep rolling through. Houston, I can be a terrible coach for a few weeks, then cash out and check, and after ruining their draft position. Yes, absolutely. Carolina is not on the upswing, says Hauser.
It's not the worst thing in the world to get fired after a year. I mean, coaching contracts, unlike the player contracts, are guaranteed. So, Kingsbury's living his best life right now, Chris, enjoying Arizona weather, that house. I don't know if you've seen his girlfriend, but he's living his best life, and getting paid for it. And I don't think it'll be interesting to see where he goes as far as if he takes a year off. I mean, not as a head coach. I think he'd have to, at minimum, take a step back to OC in the NFL game, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Denver's more in a funk than Indy. Yeah. Russ is exactly what we think he is as Cuban. Yeah. I think that we could get more out of him next. I mean, Von Miller came out saying like the Russ he's friends with a lot of the guys on the team. He talked after the season was over, after the Broncos were done. He did an interview saying like, "Oh, well, you're going to see a better Russ next year than you did this year. I guarantee it." And that's knowing he's talking to the guys on the team, which means he has insider's info on like how the coaches ran things and how. But I don't know. I've heard that from a couple different people not associated with Von. So I just don't know how much better he can be. We'll see. Otherwise,
saying Russ is going to be better next year than he was this year is like saying you're going to pronounce names better in 2023 than you did in 22.
Exactly.
It's not a high bar we're setting there.
Roger.
You're right.
Maybe he can be a little better. Maybe he can be.
I think he and again, if the defense stays where it's at, which I think it's going to regress a little bit, it's hard just to keep that up. I don't know. We'll see. But either way, that settles it because Vaughn is always talks bad about people as Cuban.
All the time.
Just someone take Matt Canada off the Steelers fans' minds, please. Just help.
You know, he's a great offensive mind. Brilliant.
Reckoning. Don't start this conversation. Too bad Pittsburgh can't get D'Amico Ryans. Do you want to win? like, come on, Rick.
Like D'Amico as your like defensive coordinator? Is that what you mean?
We got Flores for defensive coordinator.
Oh, we're not going down this road again. Let's see. Broncos. I have an appointment to interview for the HC job. Any advice? Hey, good luck on all your interviews, Broncos, and welcome in. Good to have you in.
I mean, make shit up in the interview. It seems to work in Denver.
Seems to work in Denver.
Fall for it.
And it's always a guy that has zero experience. So there you go. It's perfect. You have zero experience and you just make shit up and you're golden. You'll be just fine.